Hi everyone, it's Deb with iClimb, and today we're going to do a little bit of working standing. It will give you better balance, it will loosen you up, it will actually help you make your hips more functional. And so we're going to start. I suggest that you get a good solid chair, one that's very stable. You can do this on an island or a counter. As long as you've got some space, that works as well. Just make sure that you are comfortable with whatever you're using and that it's not going to move on you. First thing we're going to do is we're going to step back away from the chair, counter, whatever you've got, and that height variant is going to be a little bit different, and that's fine. Just make sure your feet are lined up with your hands. In other words, you don't want your hands over here and your feet in a different position. Your feet need to be facing forward. Bring your feet behind you a little bit. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. That by itself will be hard for a lot of you. In other words, don't put your weight into your wrists. When you pull your shoulder blades back, that'll take some weight off your wrists. And I want you to slowly drop the torso down and try to keep your legs straight. Now, a lot of you will end up here. We don't want that. We need these paraspinals to be strong to bring you into hip extension. That will also affect your gait, your hip movement. Most of you, vast majority of you, are going to feel a huge stretch on the back of that leg. That's okay, let it stretch. If it's too much, come up a little bit. But you want to hold that. You've got layers of things that are connected, interconnected, and on top of each other, so you need to let things stretch. Some of you are going to feel it here. That's perfectly fine. That's going to open up your rib cage, allow you to breathe better, as well as better organ function. You're going to hold that. And I would say, honestly, for a minute, if you need to take a break, take a break. Pay attention as to how much your hips are able to move. They technically should be able to go to extension. In other words, have a little bit of a curve here. That curve belongs there even in this position. So we're going to stretch that out. If, and you'll know, again, listen to your body. Take what the body's going to give you. We always challenge, we don't force. So what you want to do is also kind of reach around. In this case, I'm reaching to the left, and I'm kind of shifting my right hip to the back. So what I'm going to end up feeling, and I'm going to hold that position, and I can bend that knee a little bit on the opposite side, or the side that I'm reaching toward. I'm going to hold that, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. Now, what I'm going to end up with is this huge stretch all the way down my side into my hip. There's a muscle from the rib to the hip. We've talked about this before, called the QLO, the quadratus lumborum. That's a stabilizer for the spine, the hips, the torso, but it's also important in gait. Most of you have one hip higher than the other. You're in posterior tilt. It doesn't function well. We're stretching it out right now so that the hips can move better and you're looser in that position. So you're going to hold that. And I suggest that you do that twice, because what's going to happen is you'll notice a difference from the first time to the second time. So now that we've done that, we've loosened things up a little bit, we're going to do a little bit of squatting, all right? So let's go ahead and keep your feet straight ahead. When you squat, most of you do this. You take yourself immediately into posterior tilt, which is totally incorrect. You need to start with your low abdominals. If you engage your low abdominals and push your hips behind you, you'll notice that my hips go to that extension position we talked about a few minutes ago that we were trying to gain. So what you're going to do is you're going to engage your low abdominals. You're going to sit back on your heels, almost like I can bring my toes up. And I'm going to just stand up. Now, what you're going to do is you do, again, we challenge, we don't force, whatever you can handle. You're going to drop down, hold that. You may feel it in your thighs, and that's perfectly fine. And you're going to stand up. This is one of the ways to strengthen that quad. This is another one that gets very weak for a lot of people. So we're going to strengthen that. We're going to squat and we're going to stand up. And right now, you can hold your hands here. Eventually, we won't do that. I want you to really focus on being grounded in your feet and into your hips. Weights in your heels, chest is up. Notice I'm looking straight ahead. I'm not doing this. Changes everything. I'm looking straight ahead. Look at my back position. It's flat. I'm squeezing my shoulder blades. This right here is an exercise by itself for a lot of you. Just trying to even get in that position or hold it. And I'm going to stand up. And I'm going to squat. Knees need to be over the hips. Make sure you're not here. You need to engage muscles in lateral hip. All right? Knees need to be over the heels, not the toes. If you're here, guarantee you're not using your low abdominals. As soon as you engage the low abdominals, it changes the position of your hips. So you're going to squat, and you're going to stand up, and you're going to squat, and you're going to stand up. Again, where I'm looking is straight ahead. I'm not looking down. I'm keeping my chest, top of my chest open. And I'm keeping my back flat, and my weight is always in my heels. My weight distribution is on the parameter of my foot. That helps my balance. So I'm going to squat. And if you want, depending on your comfortability level, you can take one hand at a time off of your counter, your chair, and just put it on your chest or behind your head. And then you can go to the second one until you feel comfortable with squatting and standing up, elbows open, chin up. Now, once it gets hard, you want to do 3 or 4 more with good form and technique. That's how you're going to gain strength. That's how you're going to gain endurance. Notice in the beginning how many times you're able to do that. The next time you go to it, try to do at least 2 more. You're going to build. Even if you do this 3 or 4 times a week, by the end of the week, you'll notice a difference. So that's a good place to start. Now, one of the things that we also lose is hip rotation, as well as external femur, which means, in other words, that femur, the thigh, being able to open. A lot of you are way too tight in here. So what we're going to do, and if you have hardwood, even this works on carpet, tile, anything to where you can slide. So what you're going to do, you're going to keep your torso in an upright position, and all you're going to do is take that foot to the side. Notice my toe is forward, and I'm going to slide it in. So this is what I call loading. In other words, this side has integrity. I have to be able, when I step, that it stays still. In other words, I'm not leaning, twisting, or torquing as I load this side, because in gait you have to be able to load and you have to be able to work, so both sides have to be able to do both. So this is a little bit of loading. We're activating lateral hip, that tensor, we're loading, we're also working on posture. If you want to add another component to that, put those hands behind your head and really work on those paraspinals. Again, if you need a wall or whatever, you can do that. Use the chair, whatever works for you. After you do that on both sides, then what you're going to do, and I'm going to change sides here, is you are going to work on a little bit of rotation. This is one of the things as people get in and out of the car, the chair, whatever, you've got to be able to have. So what we want to do to practice that is to, once we've done this, we're going to bring it forward and we're going to slide it around. Now, in the beginning, we're only going to go 1/4 of a circle, all right? So we're going to bring it forward and we're going to open it. Now, notice my foot position. This is what a lot of you will do. So you're using the wrong muscles. You need to use lateral hip and the second layer, those external rotators underneath your glute. You do this and you've changed, my hips went to rotation. I don't want that. I need to be able to externally rotate that femur without rotating my hips. So I'm going to start by limiting my range of motion. So I'm going to slide it forward and I'm going to circle it around. And then I'm going to circle it back. I'm going to circle it around and I'm going to circle it back. Again, if you want to add a second element to that, work on paraspinals, work on integrity here. You can put the hands behind the head. You're going to open it and you're going to bring it back. And you're going to open it and bring it back to the front. Again, notice how many times you're able to do that and bring it back. And this, again, is also working balance. opening that hip. You should feel that, and some of you that are tight in the hip flexors will also feel a pull in here, and that's okay. When you are feeling it here, that says it's too tight. These are your primary movers back here. Technically, you should feel it back here, if any place. The more you do, you should feel this unwind and feel more activation on the back side. So you're going to do that on both sides. You're going to open, and you're going to bring it back. And you're going to open, and you're going to bring it back. We're going to do that on both sides. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to go to the back. We're going to start with one plane of movement, and we're going to start with just the hip extension. Now, this one will be a challenge for a lot of you because your quads are weak. A lot of you don't even have good knee extension, in other words, being able to straighten the leg. The vast, well, say 100% of you have issues with very weak glutes, which should be one of the strongest muscles besides your paraspinals in your entire core. So we're going to activate those. You're going to push back. Now, notice my foot position. Toes are facing down. I'm not here. As soon as you turn that foot out, once again, you take the hips to rotation. We don't want that. The glutes have got to be able to help you to go to hip extension and keep the hips facing forward. That's what you should technically be able to do in gait. So we're going to push it back, and we're going to bring it forward. Push it back, and notice I'm in knee extension. Stop here, and if you notice you're here, straighten that leg. Now, I want you to also notice something. So I push this to the back. As soon as I bent my knee, notice what happened to my hips. It changed, it dropped it. If I straighten the leg, now my hips are level. That's where they belong. This is another reason that a lot of you, your gait is off because of the lack of complete engagement in that kinetic chain, in other words, from the hip to the foot, and the knee not bending. Because as soon as you bend the knee, you change it. You've also changed some tight spots in that low back. So that's really important. So you're going to push it to the back, and you're going to bring it forward. Now, you may start to feel a little bit of tightness here. Start to discern between what's appropriate tightness and inappropriate. Those muscles, as you take that hip to extension, should tighten up. It's going to help with hip low back stability. All right? Again, we challenge, we don't force. Pay attention to your foot position. I highly recommend, again, that you do this barefoot or in socks because your feet or your shoes a lot of times will limit you. So you're going to take this back and you're going to bring it in. And you're going to slide it to the back and you're going to bring it in. And you're going to slide it to the back and you're going to bring it in. Now, once you've done that, again, you determine what's a challenge for you. I would say, honestly, you need to do the back side more than the front side, but try to get in at least 12 to 15 good ones. Excuse me. Once you do that, what I want you to do is I want you to take that foot to the back, and I want you to raise that opposite arm. Not out here, but close to the head. Here's why. In your gait patterns, you have this contralateral pattern. A lot of you shut down your arm swing. We want to make sure we get that back. So as you slide this back, right now I want you to do it on the loading side. Eventually we're going to do it on the other side. And then you're going to bring it back. This goes back, and this comes in. This part will be easy for you. Most of you have do it on the same side versus the contralateral pattern. So you're going to raise that opposite arm. Notice how close my arm is to my head. This is where a lot of you will be because you've got weak muscles in the upper mid-back. The more you bring that to midline, the more demand you've got in the muscles in the upper mid-back, and the more stretch you're going to feel here. What you're doing also when you raise that arm is change the position of the rib cage and the scapula. So you're bringing it up, toe down, heel up, leg straight, drop it down. You're going to do that on both sides, and then we're going to do the opposite arm. So same leg, and this time we're going to do right leg back, right arm up. Because in gait, This is where you're going to be. Now, clearly you don't do this, but right now we need to strengthen those muscles, gain range of motion and functionality in that torso, upper mid-back. So you're going to slide this back and raise the arm up. So if I was walking, when my left leg is forward, my right arm is forward. And bring it back. Take it back on the leg, up on the arm, palm is facing inward toward midline, because in gait that's where it should be. And again, count how many times you can do that before it starts to get hard. Hopefully it'll get to the point where it's not hard at all. Then we're going to take this to the back, and we're going to make a quarter circle to the front. Again, notice my foot position. I'm not in hip rotation. And then I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to bring it to the back, bring it around, and back, and bring it in. I want you to go slow. You cannot control if you're going fast. Plus, you cannot be aware if you're going fast. So go slow enough that you know where your parts are in space and that you can make corrections as need be. I want you to feel all 5 toes here, not the first 1 or 2. Circle it around, bring it back, and bring it in, and back, and around, and in. And again, we want to do that at least 12 to 15 times. You may have to break it up into 5 or 6. And when you start to lean, collapse, whatever, you need to stop, take a break, go back to it. You're better off to do that because form and technique matter. There's a principle called form follows function. You have to replicate ideally what you want in the long run. So if you're sloppy in the exercises, you'll be sloppy in whatever else you're trying to accomplish. Once you've done that on both sides, now we're going to try to make a full circle. This will be a challenge. We can start forward or backward. Right now we'll go ahead and start backward. So we're here, all right? I can take this to the side, all right? And I'm going to bring this all the way to the front. And then I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to slide it to the front, all the way around. Right here is where most of you will cut it off. You need to make sure that you maintain a circle and bring it in. Now, if you stop when you're here and realize that you're kind of making it flat instead of a circle and correct it, trust me, a lot of you will feel that in the hip, and then bring it around and bring it in. Again, rotation matters. Getting in and out of bed, getting in and out of so many different positions is why that's so important. All right, so you're going to do that on both sides. And then what we can also do, and again, this is totally up to you and where you are once you do that. So we're going to take this arm, and I use a 2-pound dumbbell. And again, I can bring it down, and I can slide it back, and I can bring it down. I can slide it back, and I can bring it down. And then the other thing, if I want, I can change my plane of movement. Again, this is going to help with my balance and my center, is to bring it to the side. I can do this without weight, all right? But I'm going to take my arms overhead. And if you want to start because you're more comfortable with one side, that's fine. And then when you get comfortable doing both sides, you can do both sides. So you're taking this here. This will recenter you, automatically pull you upright and into a good position. So this is going to help balance. This is going to help stability. This is going to help mobility in the hip. Again, notice how many you do. Pay attention to how much movement is on that loading side, because we don't want any. Keep the toes open. Don't go to hammer toes or grabbing. And then you're going to do that on the other side. For some of you, that's going to be a good workout. Enjoy, have fun, keep improving.